I think I see a lot of lawbreakers up in this house.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sodercast, the podcast about film, culture, politics, and Steven Soderbergh, where we watch every film directed by American filmmaker Steven Soderbergh and explore how they speak to their moment in this one. Show's hosted by two guys. I'm one of the guys. My name is Jake Serwin.
I'm one of the guys. My name is Ian Ryan. Jake, how are you?
I was thinking about how, much like the MEV1 virus, this show happened when the wrong bat met the wrong pig. I'm the pig.
Oh, that's really nice.
Well,
you think you're saying that you're the smart one?
No, I'm saying longtime listeners might recall. I've argued that the young Ian Ryan bore a strong resemblance to Bat Boy from the Weekly World News.
True, that's established.
Like child
lore.
Ian.
That was pre-podcast lore. That's correct. Yep.
Weekly World News seems downright quaint. When you look at things like, what is it, truthserumnow.com?
I totally agree.
12 million hits.
You're getting right into the meat of the thing here, the pig and bat meat of the thing here.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
Oh boy, this film, man. I was thinking, in some ways, I wish so many things that seem better than now what I know about people.
Oh, yeah. This movie is what if COVID happened under Obama, basically. I mean, we'll talk about it.
I think that's extraordinarily optimistic.
No. But I mean, like, This is like the liberal, I think the liberal fantasy of what if.
Oh, yeah. What if it happened under my president?
Yeah. But they didn't. I mean, look, we talk arguably too much about the Speed Force.
No.
But this movie does feel a little bit like Ezra Miller poking their diabolical head through the Speed Force to warn us about something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know the tweet? Who tweeted it?
Welcome back to this week's episode of Who Tweeted It.
Yeah. Well, somebody tweeted that Kofifi was Trump from the... No, I believe it was specifically McConaughey in the Tesseract from Interstellar trying to type COVID. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool episode so far, I think.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm looking forward to seeing my dear friend in person soon.
You going to Nara Prefecture?
That's true. My dear,
that's where they have the famous
friend.
deer. No, Ian's coming to Los Angeles.
Yep, that's true.
To visit me. He's going to close his loop.
Yeah, we're going to complete the ritual. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I hope to have a normal brain by the time you get here. I've been a little bit weird.
You've been working on some infusions, some tinctures that might help you in this regard, or what?
I've got the pipettes out.
Okay.
Hey, I don't have the patience to wait for this joke later in the episode, so I'm just gonna say Dimitri dish.
Hey, that's pretty good, man. I like that a lot.
Petri dish, isn't that fun?
I think he would like that too.
He would love that. He'd draw a picture of it.
He would, yeah, on his little. What do they call those? Butcher paper boards. What is that?
Just like an easel. It's like a big notepad, I think.
Yeah.
Man, Dimitri Martin really fucking crushed it with pre-med students at UCLA in 2009. Just like a pretty cool. I entered
student. UCLA as a pre-med student, and I guess you're right, because I think I liked him probably in the year 2010. I thought this is like an innocuous, funny little guy.
You know what? And also, same. Looking at Dimitri Martin from the lens of modern comedy, we had no idea how
he
good
would never
we had
go
it.
to Riyadh.
A guy kind of making some kind of clever jokes who seems like nice.
Yeah,
they dropped out of law school, I think.
I think that's right. That's a big part of his first special.
To do the joke about the ice cubes in the cup. Brothers hold. Remember?
Yes. Yeah.
Why do pajamas have pockets? All these classic Dimitri Martin jokes. Real quick, we got a Patreon. Y'all ever heard of this? We got a Patreon where you can support the show. Go to patreon.com/podcastiform. It gets you $5 a month. Gets you a bonus episode every other week. Talk about Clint Eastwood stuff. We talk about Steven Soderbergh stuff. I think when this comes out, we will have just done our first listener choice episode where the listeners wisely forced us to finally cover Zodiac, the film based on the real case that was the inspiration, partially the inspiration for Dirty Harry. And I'm going to pull kind of a Contagion here. I'm going to do sort of a prediction.
Oh.
That episode was received with rapturous, like crying and stuff. People were wailing.
Okay, cool.
Like the picture of the North Korean guys watching Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
How could I have forgotten that?
That's one of your favorite guys in the whole world.
You see, what it was like, I was trying to remember, was it Keaton? Was it Chaplin? It's another, a silent buffoon. A lot of listeners wishing.
Yep.
Yeah.
There it is. So check us out on Patreon. We're
check
doing
us out on patreon.com/podcast.
the Big Forsythia episode. We're taking the herbal remedy to the MEV virus.
Ooh, we should do our Scythia Final Four. Final Four Scythia.
We should.
Have to wait till March. Also joining us for this series is our friend, the virtual assistant from the 2022 Steven Soderbergh film, Kimmy. It's Kimmy.
Hey, Kimmy.
What's up, piss slickers? It's me, Kimmy.
Jesus.
You're cool today, huh? Kimmy, was this... We know about your desires to have teeth and to be in one place at a single time, this sort of thing. What did you feel about this movie? What kind of chords did this strike for you?
Can we get serious here?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Sure, yeah, by all means.
22 episodes about Soderbergh, and neither one of you has even tried to get me pregnant like I asked.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I see.
Is
this what the energy is today? Is that
we're like, we'll get to it, right?
Well,
you haven't even looked into it.
I don't. Maybe I have. Ian, have you looked into it?
I don't know that. I mean,
bullshit. I know what you guys look into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I know.
I guess you would know that.
It's all Enrico Colantoni's cell phone number this, Enrico Colantoni home address that. Enrico Colantoni ever tried gay stuff interview the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
He hasn't done an interview specific, but like gay stuff, maybe not exactly the right search term.
He just seemed like he'd be such a strong, physically, just a strong guy.
He does seem like one of those guys who's just got like a lot of
imagine the handshake.
Tensile strength.
Yeah. Boy.
Like a suspension bridge.
He's cantilevering.
Why not just try Googling which input computer pregnant or computer holes different purpose?
Yep.
Yeah, why not try that? I guess that's a good point. Why don't you just, when I open up Google, you could just like...
Make us see that.
Yeah, you could just make that...
She's a fan of consent in some regards. Is that what's happening here?
Would it kill you?
No, I suppose not.
I would.
Oh. Okay. Is that a first?
I think she's gotten pretty close before. It doesn't feel a long walk for her.
No.
Okay, Kimmy.
Yep. In theaters before, I guess. Not anymore, probably.
Cool.
Young people die in that as well as in this movie. It's sort of a connection.
That is a connection. Great point.
Yeah. Do you have any other things to ask, Kimmy?
Not at this time.
Cool.
Okay. So, Kimmy, let's jump into our signature segment, the two questions. Would you like to cue this up for us?
It's time for the two questions, our signature segment where we ask each other two questions.
You heard it, folks. It's the two questions. Ian, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first. My question for you is, when you were watching the scene in this film where...
Making it up.
No.
Actively making it up.
No. I'm trying to phrase this as meanly as possible. When you were watching the scene in this film where Matt Damon prepares for his daughter, who is frustrated by quarantine, frustrated by the lockdown that they're experiencing, a special little prom night at home. Mm-hmm. Does this feel close to your experience? Now, I believe I know what you did on prom night. Have you recounted this on the podcast before?
I'm sure I have talked about going to the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History to see Dinosaurs Giants of Patagonia 3D in the IMAX. And then me and my friend Philip and my friend Steve, Philip, who has launched a podcast So it's like a DC rock history podcast, and it's called the DC Rock History Podcast. And they have like been in Washingtonian magazine and stuff, and I'm not mad at them or anything. And they've, I think, talked to like most of Fugazi or whatever. Anyway, Philip and Steve and I went to Philip's basement afterward and probably played like Beatles rock band or something. I went to my girlfriend in high school. The main one was a year older than me, so I went to her prom when I was a junior and she was a senior.
Yeah, I'm mocking you, but I want to be clear. Jake, since the moment I met him, has recounted the tales. I mean, that is basically what I'm about to say. Since the moment that I met you, the way you talk about your middle school and high school experience, despite being just like paralyzed by neuroses and arrogance and the various afflictions that you had, seem to be kind of a fuck master. I don't know. You seem to be like
no. No, what you're thinking, you're confusing this with I guess some like disordered attachment styles.
I see.
I guess I've found others with similar problems.
I just felt like the string of partners that you had in the time that I was, sort of pathetically pursuing like one or two people to some amount of success. It's just astounding to me.
Well, I'm just a serial monogamist.
Yeah.
Though it's not like there was a new gal every other week.
No. I just mean it seems like you are you just found opportunities to connect with other people. I don't mean to make it sound
specifically
gross.
It's Honey Nut Cheerios.
Nice. Yeah, the serial monogamy.
It's always been Honey Nut Cheerios.
Uh-huh.
When this scene played out that you're talking about, did you, like me, think, I guess this is with the film Taken, another late 2000s, early 2010s film where a teenage girl is supposed to be a big U2 fan for some reason.
Abs did not make the connection to Taken. That's incredible. That's why you're a scholar.
Maggie Grace in Taken is going to Europe to follow U2 around on tour. And it's not like U2 appears in the movie. They could have just said Radiohead or something. They could have said Fall Out Boy, anything that like a 17-year-old in 2008 might reasonably be interested in. But no, U2.
This was astounding to me. In a film that's fixated on realism, this is a slip up.
I mean, they could have just thrown in a line where she's like, Dad, this song, and he's like, you used to like this or whatever. Like when I would play this, this is like Matt Damon's character would put this on. Anyway, thank you for the question. Did you go to your prom?
I went to several proms. Yeah, I went to my prom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is the thing where you're talking about how I fucked a lot so that you're fishing.
No, I'm not fishing.
Say, did you fuck a lot? You could say too much.
Absolutely not the case. Objectively
not the case. He was doing some zoonotic transmissions over there.
I mean, Judy Hopps. Nope. I had one girlfriend in high school, basically, and I went to her prom at her school, and she came to my prom at my school. And our relationship was short-lived, so this is not about me showing off in any way, shape, or form.
What if you guys pretended I was Judy Hopps?
Okay, come on.
I mean, what do you mean, like close my eyes or something?
I can generate images.
No, this I haven't looked. We're gonna, Kimmy, let's offline this.
Okay, Nick Fox.
Ooh, don't call me that.
Okay.
That was the horniest thing that's ever happened on the show. You had one girlfriend in high school, you said?
Yeah, that's basically the end of the story.
You guys went to prom?
That's
was weird.
About halfway out of bat boy mode, extremely braced child, trying to roll a joint based on a YouTube video kind of a situation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Did you ever send it to David Crosby? Remember how he would review people's joints on Twitter?
No, I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know
if
what
you sent him an image of your
about.
Joint, he would review your joint roll. David Crosby from Stills and Nash fame.
Of course, right. That's pretty good.
Thank you for the question. Two questions from me.
Yep.
This here is episode, I believe, 22, as Kimmy put it.
I think that's right.
Of the Soderbergh series. How you doing with Steve? How you feeling about Steve at this juncture?
I think this is a great time to check in because this film, obviously, big time back in the mainstream eye, both in its moment and then subsequently, as people recall. And I am feeling the highs have been really high. The lows have been not terribly low, but maybe more frequent than I had anticipated somewhat. But I also think, just to respect to the exercise that we do in this podcast, the premise of this entire show, I think all of the films that we've watched of his have helped me understand this person better. And I've never felt like we were hitting a wall. Maybe the listeners would disagree, but I feel like it feels like each new entry unlocks something about this person, about his concerns, about whether the stuff that is filtering into his filmmaking is like a conscious interest in the political thematic stuff, whether it's the technique things we talk about frequently, his interest as a technician, somebody invested in like the evolution of the art form.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is like something emerging that tells me like, okay, I can see how this fits into the wider constellation. I think I felt sometimes with Eastwood and Schrader that you would just get like a wild hit, which was really, I think, fun for us to say like, oh, wow, decided to go for something. But it feels like Soderbergh, you can do some of the Charlie Day pinning things up on a board connection style stuff. What do you think?
Red yarn. Yeah. I mean, I've been feeling, I think I've expressed this already, but I've been feeling a little bit flummoxed by Soderbergh at some points. I think because he is, I mean, with Eastwood, you know, he's famously has an ideological point of view that he insists is not in his movies and is kind of cryptically present or absent. And that was kind of the juice of the show, was like, it's weird this guy made this, or it makes sense this guy made this. And then Schrader sort of like as an artistic practice returned to the same well over and over again, which was sort of obvious, an obvious text for us to plumb, you know? And then Soderbergh, you know, he's got his pet themes. He's got, as we'll talk about today, the hyperlink, the sort of the globalization film, I guess. And of course the transactional desire stuff, which I feel like we're kind of, we're heading into the part of his career where that is overwhelmingly the preferred theme for a little while here. And I guess I'm feeling like a little bit at arm's reach from the guy, I think, and I think that's his, that's also a theme.
Yeah,
right?
I think that films, is. Yeah.
Of Graham in Sex, Lies, and Videotape onward. So I guess maybe I'm having kind of a This Is Water type of experience here, where I'm thinking I'm missing something when in fact it's about the missing.
I think that is right to say it's not just corny nonsense, the words that have just come out of your mouth. I think it's...
Yeah, I say it.
I mean, in particular, we're talking about, of the three, the clearest or the closest one to being a technocratic liberal with... I think maybe this is like the most liberal thing of all, but to have some like semi-divergent, like slightly more left-leaning views, some slightly more right-leaning views. But, I mean, isn't that part of the... like capital D Democratic Party position to sort of be convinced that their views are invisible, or their views are like
this is the
passive
default
reality
position.
Exactly. It's sort of, you have to prove to me why this isn't the sensible conclusion to come to.
Yeah, and the idea that it's even the center, like calling yourself a centrist when you're so far to one side is, although now I'm thinking about like one of those really long anime swords that's balanced so that like you can put your finger under the hilt and then there's like 9 feet of blade. It's so thin that it balances perfectly. Well, we're not talking about that today. We're talking about Contagion. This is the Steven Soderbergh film released September 9th, 2011, written again by our friend Kieślowski Burns.
Yeah.
And before we talk about it, we got to get into Steven So Darn Busy. I didn't want to just shout out the name of the film.
No, that's good.
Important stuff
shout
here.
Shout out old rule. Yep. Go ahead.
Kimmy?
This is Steven So Darn Busy, where we catch up with all of Steven Soderbergh's producing work since his last film as a director or whatever.
So, there's just one thing to talk about here, which I think speaks to our conversation just now about Soderbergh's slipperiness. Slippery Steve. He and Scott Z. Burns were, after The Informant, they were working on a film about Lenny Riefenstahl. Yeah. I am convinced, I don't really know why, maybe just probably because I'm sort of a simpleton and he'd already directed her with a German accent, but I just assume it was going to be Kate Blanchett. I don't know. I mean, that seems...
I mean, yeah.
You could see her playing Lenny Riefenstahl.
Oh, sure. That's not crazy.
Especially because she's like the kind of lady who would like... She would do interviews talking about the morality of it, and
Absolutely.
People would listen.
That is correct. Yeah.
But I have a long form quotation from Soderbergh talking about it a few years later.
Okay.
Scott and I were working on it, and I thought we had an interesting take on it, which was to see if we could make the audience root for her and treat Hitler and Goebbels as like the studio heads, and treat her as the aggrieved artist who is being held back by Philistines, and to really flip the thing upside down. The job is not to judge your characters. Your job is to present their point of view as they would want it presented. So I thought, wow, that would be interesting if you could somehow over 90 minutes convince somebody to root for someone who probably on some level was pretty horrible. Ian, can you think of any of the levels on which she was pretty horrible?
Look, this is the kind of thing that if we're talking about liberal, like anesthetized views of morality and moral assumptions, I'm not saying it's not that crazy to me to say, I mean, I like Journey to the End of the Night or something. I like fiction about, well, what does it mean to try to get us to sympathize or get in the mind of somebody who is obviously a monster, but
yeah, we talked about a bunch of Paul Schrader movies, you know?
But don't go around saying probably on some level maybe had.
Yeah, no, she's like, I mean, there was a recent Lenny Riefenstahl documentary called Riefenstahl, that is sort of like it went through her archives and was a real no. She was a fucking piece of shit. She was a monster. She was not she was like girl boss trapped meetings. In her place and time.
Yeah.
And specifically, I think also like Riefenstahl was a master of her own image. And like managed to find a way to, I mean, she like Mick and Bianca Jagger, I think, sat for like portraits shot by her in like the 70s or 80s or something. She became like a celebrity, which is so fucking bizarre.
But look, I do think it speaks to something that we must get to later, which is just how much easier it is for both human beings and I think film as art to be interested in and to comprehend individual moral arcs and individual moral questions rather than questions of, hey, what does it mean to be a propagandist for a genocide machine? I think that's just so much harder to conceptualize.
Remember The Good German? Remember when we watched The Good German?
Yep.
Yeah.
Talking about things at arm's reach. So should we talk? So now I have a question for you. I'm in a rare position where I have to applaud the journalism of comingsoon.net. Did you read this interview with Scott Z. Burns on comingsoon.net?
I don't know if I did. Which interview is this?
This was it was just a nice piece of film journalism where they sat him down and talked about the genesis of this film. And I wanted to direct people to it for, I assume, the first time in their lives.
I think I missed this one, but I might have seen like excerpts from, when like somebody else will just turn another article into their own article.
Most of the internet. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. So, I mean, he talks about sitting, like watching a scene or maybe just thinking of a scene in The Informant. It's a different film that we talked about.
Oh yeah. The Informant scene about the germophobia, basically.
Scott, yeah, exactly. We watched Scott Bakula's character talk on the phone and then coughs on the phone. And then in Matt Damon's character's head, he says, oh, great. Now what happens? He gets sick and then I'm going to get it. My kids are going to get it. And combining that with a TED Talk that Scott Z. Burns watched, which I also think is like the ultimate how do liberal people become interested in something.
Yeah.
But then, look, I got to say credit to this man. He goes from there and he gets in contact with Larry Brilliant, who is this sort of strange philanthropist, activist, science/journalist person. I don't know how we characterize this guy.
Like, sort of doesn't have the riz to be like a Sanjay Gupta or something.
Yeah.
Like wants to be kind of he's like a famous scientist among people who would know about scientists rather than among like regular people.
But then is not himself like a actual scientist. And this
he's a doctor. He was, interestingly, he was the kind of unofficial doctor of the native activists on occupied Alcatraz, which we talked about a million years ago during the Clint episodes, which I thought was an interesting crossover. And then he kind of gained notoriety for that because he was living on Alcatraz, like helping with medical needs. And then he's like he's cast in a movie about hippies where he like plays the doctor or something, and he goes to India and when people used to do that to encounter the mysterious Orient, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then somehow he's really important in the early internet, like 1985 internet.
Right.
And
truly
then,
early internet.
He helps to co-found The Well, which is one of the oldest continually operating online communities. And through this, he ends up with Google.org, which is the philanthropic arm, the charity arm of Google. The
If you're hearing this and saying, "Wow, I don't know anything about this," it's been massively overshadowed by the great evil that Google has done. Yes, that's correct.
That's right. And then ends up now he's in some other Google guy's foundation. He's on the board of Salesforce and stuff.
Several foundations.
This guy goes from providing free medical care to like Red Power activists on occupied federal land to the board of Salesforce.
Yeah, which I think
ain't that just the way?
Not irrelevant to the topics of the film in our episode today. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with this though.
Okay.
Coming off of rewatching this movie for the episode, I think this movie whips. Just like as a film, I think this thing is a banger,
buddy. I'm right there. This is my first rewatch since the cinema. This is the first. I didn't do a pandemic rewatch with everybody else.
I did a pandemic first watch.
Oh, interesting.
Movie first look or whatever.
Yeah. So then he gets put in touch with a bunch of other epidemiologists and science journalists. Ian Lipkin, this guy at Columbia, Laurie Garrett, who is another sort of disease, like public health author who did things like write about Ebola and Zaire. And, just to bring us back to the quality of the film, he wants to make this thing that is hyper realistic. He and Steve come up with a bunch of rules basically about like how they want to shoot the film, how they want to make it different from other disaster pandemic films. In that same Coming Soon interview, Scott shouts out a bunch of things that I think if you ask people like, well, what are the pieces of plague fiction that exist? Camus, 28 Days Later, Outbreak. It's surprisingly limited, and he was sort of. I think he.
It's mostly zombie movies. If you're like, if you need to make a big list, I think
I Am Legend he mentioned as well. Yeah, and his point is sort of like, I actually think these films are saying something. He isn't doing like, nobody's addressed any of the real shit, but he wants to just say, okay, well, if we just get into the logistics of what this would look like. And I think this is the reason that it became such a meme online in, April 2020 to say, this is so freaky, because I think it's just extraordinarily well researched. He mentions even in this interview, he says, I wanted to know what people would think about questions like, if something like this happens, do we close the schools? If we close the schools, who stays home with the kids? Right. These are like, these became the questions that we all were thinking about. But I think he put the work in, and it shows.
And as he mentions, and Ian, you told me that you were putting the work in after your prom. Is that what you said to me?
I absolutely did.
You said I was putting the work in. You said I was. You said you put on your hard hat and picked up your lunch pail.
Absolutely not.
Out there on that beam. His high school girlfriend was 20 feet tall. I don't know. Hope she's doing well, I guess.
As do I.
He talks about speaking to these experts. He learned it's not a question of what happens if this happens. It's what happens when this happens.
Correct.
Which is why, and we have a lot of the true disaster, obviously. Like as the tagline for the film goes, nothing spreads like fear. First of all, ever had whipped butter much, bitch. But the real disaster is the engineered collapse of critical thinking among the American public and just the global public. But when COVID popped off, things like this were cited as evidence that it was engineered, evidence that it was a plandemic. And I remember I was thinking the other day about people pointing to the Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal music video.
Oh.
Do you remember this? Did you see? You seen this? You heard about this?
I'm sure I must have. I don't recall.
Alien Ant Farm. They did their famous like sort of rap rock cover of the Michael Jackson song "Smooth Criminal."
Of course.
And in the music video, it's like a classic kind of pop punkish rap rock music video. A bunch of like white people in a backyard or maybe a front yard, and there's a little boy on the sidewalk dancing, doing Michael Jackson moves, and he has a surgical mask on.
Okay.
And people were like, they have been planning this for years.
Sorry, that was the end of it?
Yeah, because the kid has a mask on because these people they don't remember 20 minutes ago, and they don't remember that like Michael Jackson wore a surgical mask everywhere he went decades, I think, you know? Yeah. But I like the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up repeatedly throughout this film, thinking about, oh, we could have been prepared for this. And also, if I were stupid, well, it's really not a question of if I'm stupid, but when I'm stupid. This sort of thing would just make me convinced that Bill Gates engineered this whole thing in order to sell needles or whatever.
I mean, you even got the ultimate fact that there's a character in the movie who they sort of discredit with this type of thinking. I mean, this is like, you know, people have seen BUGONIA. This is the power of it, right? To say like, if you can make these people seem like fools, then you're untouchable.
Yeah, the movie's power is in its, I think, Soderberghian realism, and it's kind of an extension of a lot of what he has been working on. Things like Traffic, where you have like actual Congress people in the film, along with obviously the hyperlink structure of it, but then also things like Bubble, things like The Girlfriend Experience, casting real people. Although here, mercifully, I don't think we have to see too many real scientists act.
That is true. Although one of my more preferred parts of Traffic is when they have on like freaky actual DHS guys who talk like a printer, basically. Right.
Or like the guy in One Battle After Another, who people are like, this guy's so good, he needs to be nominated. And it's like, that's just a real like army interrogator guy. He just is that.
Yeah.
He doesn't need an award. He needs to be put in a big cage.
I mean, it is freaky. It is hair-raising to watch this movie. I think it's a strange combination of saying, okay, this is how humans are, and, you know, is this genetic? Is this a product of social training, basically, that people act this way? I think, you know, the clear answer is some of one and some of the other. But I don't know. I mean, I think you're right to cite these other films, because for me, he is borrowing here. I mean, the Girlfriend Experience you mentioned, he even takes some of the strange framing, the sort of like decentering of human figures on screen, the like layers obstructing people. And then he combines that with Ocean's 11 style. Like, well, if you put 15 of the world's most beloved actors on screen, it does just kind of like create interest in the story passively.
Yeah. And Dimitri Martin. Who's fine.
I actually think he is fine.
He's perfectly fine in the movie. And also, you know,
perfectly
he was
fine as
be
like a coworker. He's channeling some Bubble stuff in here.
The only thing about it is the hair. But like, if you didn't have the hair, you wouldn't know it was him.
He would disappear.
Right, exactly. So it's like casting Emo Phillips as like, you know, a bank teller. So why does that guy have that hair? Why is he talking like that?
Yeah.
But Dimitri Martin was going to be in Soderbergh's Moneyball, which fell apart. So I think it's kind of sweet to see him.
Good. I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. How should we get into this?
I mean, you want to do a quick recap, I guess, with some particular highlights of things you think are, you know, were prescient or well positioned.
Yes. So, first of all, the film opens with those immortal words: Image Nation, Abu Dhabi.
That is true.
I do. This is just we should say quickly. Image Nation, Abu Dhabi is like a government-owned. Talk about sanitizing and laundering the public image. This is just like money from the UAE to fund movies to make people forget about how 88% of the UAE is indentured migrant workers, and only 12% of the population is actually like Emirati citizens.
In terms of how much it affected the film in the ways that like DoD funding does, I believe the only footprint we see is that every time they cut to like a WHO world map, for some reason the only city on the map in the Arabian Peninsula is Abu Dhabi.
That's really funny. I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah, it happens several times in the movie, but otherwise, I think non-factor.
Let's do a quick plot summary. Right. It's like Traffic. It's a hyperlink movie, like Full Frontal.
But specifically, I'll say this: the rule I mentioned, Soderbergh's rule was we can't see anybody on screen who doesn't have a connection to somebody else we've already seen on screen. Right? You can't cut to a new group of people. Basically, is his idea. I don't know if they entirely follow that, but whether this is like a virus metaphor thing, or he also just mentions that he thinks that's something that disaster movies do that loses the audience, is to like
so
try
they're
to
all connected,
get you invested in 10,000 people that you don't know.
Right. So the movie starts. We hear some coughing and some crowd noise. Ominously, I think this is fucking fantastic. The movie
Really
starts with
good.
the Chiron Day 2.
Yeah,
You're
so good.
Fucked. We see Beth Emhoff, who is I think Kamala Harris's stepdaughter or something. Played by Gwyneth Paltrow. She's like a corporate high power lady. She's in an airport. She's traveling home from a trip to China. She's making plans to meet up with someone to have sex. It's very obviously Steven Soderbergh's voice, which I think is quite interesting. He does not appear in the film.
Nope.
But then she goes home to Minneapolis. She's not feeling well. She has a seizure. Her husband, Matt Damon, Mitch Emhoff, in kind of husky Damon mode. I like it. He's got a solidity to him.
He's buying a petting zoo here. Yeah.
I was going to say he's buying a zoonotic pathogen. And that's a Photoshop poster I plan to make before the episode comes out. Then, takes her to the hospital. She's fucking dead. Boom. What the fuck? She just seemed like she had the flu. And then he's isolated. He has an immunity. But their son also dies. And it's a pretty gnarly dead child image, got to tell you. So now we're introduced to sort of the action team. And it's cutting all over the place. So I'm not going to tell you what happens in what order. But
I think it's fairly fresh in people's minds. So I think that's as long as you could tease out the big
main storylines. Yeah. So we've got Dr. Ellis Cheever, who is the head of the Centers for Disease Control. I think he's basically Fauci, right? He's like the big disease boss, more or less, of the United States.
Epidemiology or something. Yeah. Some chief.
Which is that's a sort of a convoluted tube through which sperm passes.
That's right. Yeah, it gets reabsorbed potentially. Yeah.
He's got he's activating Ghost Protocol when this happens. They're all talking about what was perceived as an overreaction to H1N1, the swine flu. And I think smartly and very sort of Obama-nautically, the film argues I'd rather be overcautious than undercautious. I think that's smart, but also that's not what they ended up doing in real life.
That's not what they ended up doing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, I think it is cute to see, and Scott started writing the screenplay before the swine flu whatever fizzled out or became a thing. So it was more what he said is it was interesting to see it play out and reflect on what that meant for the characters in his screenplay.
So Cheever sends Dr. Aaron Mears, played by Kate Winslet, to Minneapolis to be kind of an on-the-ground investigator. It's a fascinating job. It's a real job. An epidemic intelligence service officer.
Yeah.
He sends her to Minneapolis to see what's going on, and also literally contact trace and expose herself in a very real way. Kate Winslet, of course, big fan of exposing herself in films. Come on.
Okay. All right. I think she's good. That's my comment. I think she does well in this film.
I think she's one of our greatest actresses, and also seems nice. Now, do you remember when she did that hand washing video in 2020?
I don't know anything about this. No.
Okay, so Kate Winslet, actually say that you did remember that.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so you remember when she did a video about how to wash your hands, and she's talking about being in Contagion and all the things she learned, and sort of talks you through washing your hands for 20 seconds and stuff. And then, do you remember how you asked me to assemble clips from that video along with one line of her dialogue from this movie?
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you do it?
Here, I finished it. Yeah. Okay.
I know this is hard. Remember that there is only one way to come and hear other rules.
I'd like you to get off immediately.
Starting now. 3, 2, 1. Spray, and then you touch your face, and then wipe.
Remember how you wanted me to do that?
How dare you involved in this?
Remember how the episode had to start 10 minutes late?
This is like that scene in like Sherlock when the bad guy realizes that he's actually been tethered to like a big piano that went off a cliff or something.
Somehow this podcast became like a real like jerk off instruction thing. I know somehow I did it. There's that. Okay.
What do you mean? Somehow this podcast became.
Hold on. Well, you remember this fucking.
This isn't even Tim Robinson meme. This is you chainsawing a hole in the bottom of the boat and saying, "What's happening? I think we're sinking."
Well, hold on. I gotta find another clip. Here we go. Do I have permission to release? Will you give me permission to release?
Yeah, I have master's permission to release. Yeah.
Can you count down to it?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
So, fucking. It's not all me,
Okay,
buddy.
all right. Well, I got this. I got a second smaller chainsaw. Yeah, I think you're right. You got me.
All right. So anyway, she's in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Then you've got the lab people. You've got Dr. Allie Hextall, played by the great Jennifer Ely, who is inexplicably of no relation to Meryl Streep. She's actually Rosemary Harris's daughter.
I saw that. I just
Spider-Man.
discovered it yesterday. Yeah.
She and Dimitri Dish Martin are they are working on samples of the virus to figure out what the fuck this thing is, to try to sequence it, to eventually to understand how it works, and eventually work toward a vaccine.
I mean, they have the outbreak job. They work in BSL 4.
And then you have Elliot Gould across the country in San Francisco. Dr. Ian Sussman, that's your name, that's of those. Right. Yep. And he, Elliot Gould, just bravely refusing to even try to sound like a scientist. Like he says, what do you mean BSL 4? Yeah. Like,
although I'm going to disagree slightly in that I think I had several pediatricians that were almost, I mean, they may have been intentionally channeling Elliot Gould in their behavior. I think
I'm sure they were, but like
older Elliot Gould.
But not just saying things like they'd said them
not in
ever
their
before in their life.
Right.
Yeah. So they tell him to cook his samples, but he's a sneaky boy, and he decides to keep working on it, and he eventually is going to be the one to sequence the virus. They figure out that what is called MEV1, meningoencephalitis virus 1, is spread by respiratory droplets and fomites, which is basically how COVID works, although it's mostly respiratory. I don't think the fomites thing ever really panned out. And the R naught is 4. Is that what they determined, right?
I believe initially it's 2, and then about halfway through the film it mutates and becomes 4.
The R naught being the number of people who will be infected by a single infected person.
You're statistically likely to infect, where they give the example of the flu being 1. I think it's like a famous baseline. Most people with the flu get one other person sick.
Another famous baseline, another one bites the dust.
Up.
Yep. And then it's got a 25 to 30% mortality rate. And it's like fast.
Right. And we're going to bookmark this. This is one of several mental bookmarks.
Well, now, one of the people who is also in the film.
Wow. Smooth.
Another character.
Alien ant farm over here.
We run into outside of is Alan Crumweedy, who is played by Jude Law, looking like old Tintin. And look, Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
He's the film's conspiracy theorist, and this is one of the most naive and Obama-style aspects of the film is that there's just one of these guys, and that he gets arrested.
Yeah, although on the flip side, I agree with
laughable.
you. It is laughable that this wasn't like, I guess the film does well in that like Sanjay Gupta has him on television and is like, giving airtime to something as crazy as this. That is absolutely what ultimately occurred. I do think I'm still impressed that it occurred to somebody that this would be like a mass movement of millions of people who would follow. This is so obvious to us now. I mean, it's so, I guess,
Sure.
post 9/11, maybe this is like still pretty clear to people.
Yeah, I mean, and we should talk generally about the film's sort of problematic decoupling from, I would say, historical context in a lot of cases, but we'll get to it. So this guy, he is sort of an existing health conspiracy guy who almost immediately sort of lands on this herbal extract called forsythia that he says is going to actually cure you or prevent the virus, things like this. Forsythia is a real thing. It's like it's a plant, got yellow flowers. It's named after William Forsyth, although not the one you're thinking of. It's named after botanist William Forsyth, who died in 1804, Scottish guy. And so his sort of part of the film, he's in San Francisco and also on the news and stuff, talking about forsythia, sowing mistrust, I don't know, in the medical establishment, suggesting that this whole thing is a money-making scheme, while himself, and this was one of the parts of the film that I think is the most fascinating, taking a sneaky conversation style meeting in the park with a hedge fund guy to figure out like what homeopathic bullshit to invest in now. And also being like pretty upfront about like, I need to make my money on this, while he also seems to believe it, which I think is an interesting angle.
You don't think that's often the case? I think that's what makes it so powerful.
I do think it's often the case. I just think it's like it's an under explored aspect of this that you could at once like believe the supplement is real and want to and be a craven moneymaker.
Right, you're right. I think often the craven moneymaker is just presented as like an out and out grifter who would never buy their own stuff. But I think in real life it's
and then we also have Dr. Leonora Orantes, played by Marion Cotillard. That was my
pretty good.
My sort of my double duty Marion Cotillard Bjork impression. It'll work for either. Or if Werner Herzog got shrunk down with a shrink ray, it would work for him too. She's a WHO epidemiologist. She's sort of like the more international side of the film, I guess. So she's in Hong Kong trying to figure out, trying to contact trace Beth Emhoff's, basically her trip through a single casino in Macau to figure out who she could have gotten it from or given it to. And then there's a Hong Kong government official named Sun Feng, played by Chin Han, he was in The Dark Knight. He's like the guy in Shanghai that you go see in The Dark Knight.
Guy.
He's
great.
Yeah, you've seen this guy. You remember him from both of the Mortal Kombat reboots as Shang Tsung. But he sort of represents the Chinese government, I think in a way that we should talk about. But he kidnaps her and takes her to his village where he is just keeping her as a pretty gently held prisoner to make sure that his village gets the vaccine when it is eventually developed, because otherwise, like so many other villages, they
were
would
at
get
the back of the
passed
line.
over.
Yeah.
Yes, and so eventually the vaccine is developed. We have some sequences of kind of society breaking down that we'll talk about. I think the truck sequence is pretty gnarly, and Jude Law walks around in the Dr. Evil suit that keeps riding up on his shoulders. And then he is preposterously, he is arrested for securities fraud or whatever. The vaccine's developed. Orantes is released when a Swiss guy trades her for some vaccines that then turn out to be placebos. And I think she runs away. She's broken free from the, I don't know. She's entered a new area of moral philosophy.
Yeah, she's woken up. She's unincepted herself.
The sleeper has awakened. Yeah,
she jumped out of the balcony window.
Yeah, you're waiting for a vaccine. And then in the part of the movie that makes me levitate, that is fucking incredibly potent. We're back to day one. A bulldozer from Beth Amhoff's like energy company or whatever the fuck it is knocks down a tree in China to build a new factory. A bat flies out of the tree, bites some banana, drops the banana into a pig farm where some pigs eat it. A pig is quite upsettingly pulled out of the factory, taken to the Macau casino where it is being butchered for dinner, when the chef is like, oh shit, I gotta go meet the important white lady. Wipes his hands on his apron, which I am going to stop doing, by the way, although I don't butcher pigs. He shakes her hand. Bingo, bango, bongo. You got yourself a Contagion.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Thank you for doing that. Wonderful.
It only took about an hour.
Yeah, it's okay. That's right. We started at the beginning of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I think, well, I was going to start from the beginning, but I actually want to do a reversey here and say, can we start with the
Draw 4.
In my house? That means I win. Okay, game's over. All right.
Bitch, I drew a 4.
He drew a number. Well, he wrote the number 4.
Is that not drawing?
I mean, that's an interesting question. Should we spend the rest of the podcast on that?
No.
Okay.
For once,
all right.
no.
So the digital remove, we've talked about this a bit. If people have been listening to these episodes, Soderbergh's increasingly like digital austere look, his color palette, his choice of like lighting and framing scenes so that it's absolutely not playing down the digital aspect of this stuff.
Yeah.
My feeling is I'm not sure it's ever been as thematically appropriate as it is here in the sense of, I mean, you're talking about this moment. You say it's upsetting to see the pig get dragged off, but there is like a objectivity or a sense of like, what does it mean for humans to wrestle with this stuff? Our part in this thing, like, of course, our culpability in factory farming, in disturbing wildlife zones and making it more likely for us
extraction. Yeah,
exactly. But also, we have limited access to like the real world of statistics because our human brains are whipped butter soft. Yeah. So I think to have a film that is saying, okay, we're going to show you lab scenes that kind of look like a nice DSLR YouTube video of like how labs actually work or something. And yet
it all looks like when somebody goes on a tour of the factory where they make Reese's cups or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But also trying to say, what does this look like in the lives of people? I think it's a great medium. It's a great visual medium for this.
And he's one of the few filmmakers who uses the aesthetic of digital still with purpose, as you've said. But, I'm thinking about the Wicked type thing. Wicked being just an egregious example of one of the most phantasmagorical, technicolor, beautiful Kodak artificiality looks of all time, then being aped and profaned with this bizarre digital hodgepodge look that like grays everything and tries to do realism and for bad.
Yes. Hey, that's good. That's a good Wicked reference.
No, I haven't seen it.
You saw a poster somewhere.
Yeah, and I saw the trailer like 100,000 times.
Okay, cool.
And also, Ariana Grande got COVID on the press tour. So it's relevant.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think the look of the film is fantastic. Obviously, the look of Gwyneth Paltrow's like fucking Edvard Munch face when she's like dying, and then her dead head on the slab when they're pulling her scalp down is like,
I mean, it's terrific. The film is a object lesson in like tight close-ups, but it reminds me of like Double Life of Veronique or something, where it's not sometimes the purpose of the close-up is not immediately obvious, and I think that is difficult to do, and it's an achievement because I wouldn't say that I'm like crazy for close-ups unless they're particularly well employed, because it's such a overpowering filmic tool.
You got to use them right, like a Demi or a P.T. Anderson or something.
Exactly. But this feels like we have to pay attention, because sometimes it's going to be Gwyneth like communicating all this life, this like joy of being in a foreign country and kind of giggling and having a drink with these people and playing
fucking on her old husband.
Exactly. But then sometimes it's cutting back to a close up of her dead face, and then like you're saying, her dead son in bed. And I think that's
spooky. And I think another thing about the film's sort of look is that smartly Soderbergh has cast people who are willing to look haggard. Like Kate Winslet talks. Kate Winslet talks about spending time with and speaking to people who have this job and doing what I think is like kind of non-annoying, up its own ass actory work, where she's like, "What do you do to your hair? How do you do your hair?" Because like that's gonna read on screen and also would inform your character. And they're like, "You don't touch it. Like you get it out of your face, and that's it." And so she's like, "All right, great. Don't do my hair. I'm just gonna like put it out of my face." And she clearly doesn't have forehead Botox, because you can see her forehead moving in the movie. Jennifer Ely is willing to look like sweaty and pallid from her lab job.
As one of the signifiers of like our ability to understand disease, because as the film points out, you can't see a virus on a camera, but you can see a human's face. The thing that our brain is evolutionarily equipped to read is like another person's facial experience.
Yeah, I'm seeing it a lot in like rocks and stains on walls and stuff. Yeah,
I'm sure you are
having a lot of that problem.
Yeah, I think it's also cool that the film is bringing in these people, like we've said. It's hyperlink cinema, and it follows them sometimes to their death. Sometimes it trails off. Like it will follow a person like a Lawrence Fishburne, like a Marion Cotillard. And then, I mean, at the end of the movie, Lawrence Fishburne's character has opted not to get the vaccine because he passes it on to the son of the janitor at the CDC.
Played by John Hawkes.
Exactly. Which was maybe the only casting choice in the film that was borderline distracting to me, because I think John Hawkes is incredible and he has so much presence that it's sort of like, why is there this extraordinarily charismatic janitor here? But I think
tell me more about this janitor. And he's already like the same year he's in Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. He had been in The Perfect Storm and American Gangster and stuff. Yeah, he's like, he's a known entity at this point.
Yeah. So, but then, I mean, Marion Cotillard, you mentioned she is so like semi-kidnapped, but then spends time in this village and seems to sort of recognize some things about health disparities or capitalism. Or
when we see her South again later in the film, she's like helping in the school, the makeshift
in the place she's been kidnapped to.
Outdoor like classroom. And so I think this is a Soderbergh thing, and also a kind of an Obama thing, or an Obama era thing, is the idea of the expert beyond emotion, or like beyond the person willing to like look past the base instincts and get things done and understand that's the functioning of specifically like a capitalist society requires us all to be professional and understand the real stakes here.
Interesting. I understand what you mean now, and I do get this reading of like, well, if like true civility is rising above the slight of being kidnapped and doing like a moral reading of the situation. But I guess I appreciate the character more because it is somebody who is in a position. She's not a selfish person who turns to good. She works for the World Health Organization, also doing like some type of contact tracing, but she seems to have an experience of the realities of the work that she's doing that makes her realize that whether or not they're right or wrong, the types of decisions that are being made, the utilitarian, like bird's eye view decisions, are just things that she doesn't feel comfortable with anymore. And I think that's decidedly a non-Obama position, because the Obama position is to say,
you're right,
the technocratic utilitarian call is the right one, right? Even if it's like difficult, even if you're not sure.
Right. The ultimate move is to give up the money you're getting from the Harold and Kumar franchise to go work in the White House.
Exactly.
Where you're needed most.
Right. Yeah. To nobly pass on returning to the village and say, like, I have to go to the WHO with my knowledge and now use this in the heart of the machine. But
yeah,
my original point was just that, like, I think it's cool that Soderbergh is doing, like, I would say, like, a more in the line of his Bubble or Girlfriend Experience work, where these characters just like walk off stage, basically. Like in her case, she realizes that she was exchanged for a bunch of placebo vaccines that were going to go to this village, and they're all in danger, and they all think they've been vaccinated.
Yeah, and it's specifically the responsibility for this is placed on China, which has insisted on placebos to discourage ransom taking.
Right. But she just like leaves, and it's not like we find out that she did anything or that she was ultimately frustrated or faced with tragedy. We just have no idea. And I think that is the type of thing that I think elevates this film as well beyond like a extended liberal think piece about what a pandemic would be like, because it creates these humans and then doesn't have like a complete answer for what would happen to them.
I wonder also, I'm putting it at the end of the film, obviously, the Soderbergh doesn't have to come on screen and tell me how he thinks. No. Or what he thinks or how he feels. But putting it at the end of the film, the day one sequence, the sort of origin of the virus sequence feels like the spillover event, they call it. Feels like the most like leftist moment in a Soderbergh film to this point. Which is funny because he made 4 hours about Che Guevara, but just like, hey, look, this is the insatiable maw of capital is gonna push further and further into the available resources on the planet, and it's going to it's just gonna blow back. It's gonna have rebound effects. It's gonna hurt us, and so I don't think it's not like fully Obama pilled in that way. Like this is something that Barack Dakota Access Pipeline Obama would not put in his movie he is making them, by the way.
Yeah. Now I guess he personally owns Warner Brothers. What happened? I think the film also does dance, and I believe this is what you were mentioning offhandedly, but it does dance dangerously close to some dehumanization of the Chinese and like Chinese practices and decision making. But I also think, I don't think it's a stretch to read that last part as like, this is an inevitability for global capital in some ways. I mean, maybe more pressured by things like American multinationals than. Yeah,
I mean, it is an American multinational that pushes into the jungle.
And it's a factory farm and some poor hygiene, but at least to me, maybe I'm being optimistic, but it doesn't read as like, well, these uncultured, the sort of Wuhan stuff that we saw run pretty rampant in the early days of COVID,
the fucking
especially.
Bat lady or whatever.
Yeah.
That's your mom, right? I mean, it would be.
I mean, it could be my dad.
Your dad's a bat lady? Wow. 2025, huh?
Yeah.
I have a question. Let's get into some of the moral questions that are put forth by the film.
Okay.
Is now a good time for this?
Yeah.
Is the film suggesting that this is, and I think, to me, the answer is yes. Is the film suggesting that this is basically just like the inevitable product of globalization, of an interconnected world? Because in presenting it in the hyperlink format, like the hyperlink is itself kind of like it mimics virality, right? It's the spread of this network of connections. And in reading about other viruses, there's a virus that the MEV1 is based on, in part, the Nipah virus, which originated in Malaysia and was like a bat pig collab, and they had to destroy, which means kill, like 1 million pigs, something like that. That virus just never it has a like 40 to 75% mortality rate, but it just never like broke containment. It never broke out and went worldwide, I think, because there wasn't like a lady from Minneapolis there to open a factory, right? You hear about these outbreaks in more remote regions of the global south, and there's just like usually not an American on business nearby to bring it to a higher density population center.
I think that's part of it, although as comes up in the film Outbreak, there is like, it's one of the ways in which virulence is sort of measured is by how quickly and how frequently the virus or pathogen kills its host, because there is like a diminishing return where if the virus kills somebody too quickly, then it just doesn't spread, right? So I don't know if it's just a question of like, we didn't build a factory there.
Just regular butter.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if your question is like, is this inevitable? Is this a consequence of globalization? Sure. And I think I'm gonna say that this is like the neutral use of globalization, where if you just mean like interconnectedness, a world where people travel, and I mean, even if we lived in a non strictly capitalist system that we sometimes argue for, there's just like likelihood of this being possible if there's industry in one place and there's vectors that could spread that around.
Yeah, I think in such a utopia, such an imagined better future, I think people would like not live all right on top of each other. We wouldn't have the meat consumption that we see in this film. We wouldn't have casinos, probably things like this. I think there would be
being casinos, but yeah.
It's like poker night in high school or something.
I think
where
that's
it's like
I believe
candies,
that's precisely
little hard
what we
candies.
said. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I guess some of the ways that the virus plays out in the film are at least accelerated by global capitalism, as opposed to just the way people are going to live regardless under any economic system, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I mean, you bring up intensive animal farming, I think is the euphemism du jour for factory farming. But even that, I mean, I think like avian flus are more likely to come out of small farms for whatever reason. And I think, but then maybe the argument is maybe we should just be eating less meat, which we also know to be a good thing for the environment. And I think that brings us to something I am maybe more interested in, which is like, maybe it's not capital insofar as like specifically the arrangement of somebody's ability to invest in a privately held company in that sense, but it is capitalism in the sense of the spirit of individualism and the insistence on your ability and your right to act the way you wish to act, even when it comes at the cost of doing harm to others, being like the most important thing that there is, right? And I think that's something a question the film raises very effectively from a number of different people. I mean, you mentioned this truck scene. You're talking about the scene where people are lined up to receive MREs from FEMA, I think they say, and they run out.
It's, I think, kind of obviously a Katrina reference or an echo of a Hurricane Katrina response.
Yeah, although I think the film is like fairly positive on those types of government bodies and like the importance of being, I think Scott T. Burns also had a line about something like, you can't try to build the firehouse after somebody's house is on fire. And I think that's, he was talking about, I think at the time, the dismantling of the DHS's like specifically pandemic response team defunding under Trump in the first term. But I guess my point is like, in the film, you have those people who are lined up to receive meals and there's none left and they start acting out of like their own violent self-interest. You also have people who don't want to get the vaccine, who are buying into this Forsythia thing. You have people like Matt Damon's, the character of his daughter in the film, who I think many of the problems of COVID were basically people acting like teenagers writ large, right? The sense of like, well, but what about me and what about how hard it is to be shut up for 144 days? And I don't, one of the things I want to do, and you, I think, suggested a plan for this podcast, which I think this episode, which I think is really great. I don't want to act like we never had bad ideas under the pressures of COVID.
Bad idea roundup.
Yeah. This girl, she wants to be with the person that she cares about. That's one of the reasons that we value human life, right? Is the experience of being with other people. And things like COVID, as much as I think we are both on the side of activists who are fighting for continued COVID awareness. I think it's not like the idea of people being depressed from being in their houses. That's not fake. I mean, it's a type of suffering, but I think the adult question is, when is that worth it, right? How do we make decisions about something that may be a violation of people's individual rights for the sake of something that we just don't know that much about, and also could have harm on a scale incomparably worse than an unfortunate mental health episode or something precipitated, or a loss in education, right? That's another, I think, identifiable and real concern, but one that is balanced by questions like the damage of long COVID to kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the film does very effectively just demonstrate this sort of unanswerable question of like, how do you balance a pandemic change in behavior to mitigate transmission? How do you balance that against the basic needs of like human beings, against human culture, with the scene where the boyfriend comes to the door with flowers to express his condolences for this man's wife and son who have just like abruptly died within basically 36 hours of him realizing that anyone was sick, which is like, and also the handshake scene, the which I think is so beautifully kind of underacted by Lawrence Fishburne, one of the greats. I think so too.
He comes across as like a guy visiting your house who wants to tell his little story, which is
but he's also like not even sure exactly what he means, talking about, the handshake, the empty hand is meant as a gesture of goodwill and demonstration that you mean no harm. You don't have a weapon in your hand, and now the handshake is why it's the most dangerous weapon of all, which is a stupid way to put it. But like, now this thing is extraordinarily dangerous, and like, this is sort of upending like so much about how we organize ourselves as human beings living together. And I think we both found that to be, we experienced that ourselves when living through the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns in the year 2020.
Do you want to do it?
How was your quar? What was your quar like?
More than just to indulge in like personal storytelling, but I think to demonstrate how our own ideas evolved.
I think we all know how you feel about personal storytelling lately.
Yeah, that's correct.
Check out our Spalding Gray episode.
Yeah. I was actually initially in mid-March 2020 on a short trip with my partner for her birthday in Bacalar, Mexico, which is like kind of almost on the border with Belize. And it was the moment where like it was a virus in China and Italy primarily that we had heard about. Yeah. And then, I think that was the weekend of, I think people identify like the NBA cancellation or Tom Hanks and his wife getting it or whatever, right? This
like
time
March 12th, March 13th, something like that. Yeah.
It was sort of like, I'll admit, we were looking around the little hotel we were staying, like, do any of these people seem like they're Italian, basically, and wondering, is this something, should we go home a couple days early? Right. How urgent is this? And then pretty quickly after that, we were shut up in our house, and the only contacts, the bubble, quote unquote, that we had was our neighbors, because our neighbors on both sides, their kids were obviously not in school, and none of us were leaving like our little cul-de-sac. So we, would have them over to our house every day and do kind of like improvised daycare lesson type stuff. So those are the people that I was seeing, were these people.
Because you guys are both experienced educators as well. We shouldn't. You weren't just making
sure. When I say improvised, yes, that was our trained profession. Yes, but. Yeah, so we weren't like totally isolated. I mean, probably there was a couple weeks before that started where we weren't seeing anybody, and then we were seeing 6 people basically, and we missed the holidays, didn't go home, and was in Mexico, and was talking to people and talking to you and doing book clubs and all these things that people were doing, and wondering. Right. I didn't do a run on toilet paper, but I think we did like buy some extra cans of tuna or something.
Yeah,
I don't think, we've talked previously about, I guess I'm not much of a catastrophizer in that way, but it was more like, well, I don't want to have done nothing. It doesn't seem like in 3 days, the world is going to be in like nightmare post-apocalyptic zone, but making sure like where your passport is and like to have enough drinking water and stuff, things like that.
Yeah. Did you do anything stupid? Do you remember doing anything foolish? Maybe based on like best practices from the WHO at the time? Or...
I mean, the cleaning the groceries, this type of thing.
Did you
is
wipe
that what
the
you
groceries?
mean? Definitely wipe the groceries.
Wiping, taking a Clorox wipe to like a fucking cardboard box of pasta.
Big bag of Tostitos. Yeah.
Yes. Like, I guess, but then at the same time, that's when they were telling us like not to wear masks because they wouldn't do anything. Which like, and this is a whole other thing about the critical thinking of it, but like the way that guidance changing indicated to many people that it was all fake and it was all bullshit. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I want to hear your experience, but we must talk about like just because the government doesn't know perfectly how to react, that doesn't mean that like the government shouldn't be involved or this thing isn't real. But yeah, I would say beyond cleaning groceries, I would characterize my time as COVID scold, probably longer than many people did that. But then, to be perfectly blunt, reached some point where I think, like many other people, and this is not a defense, I don't think I ever second guessed the science of something like long COVID or the dangers of COVID, but certainly at some point in 2023 or something said like, well, I'm only going to mask if it's like a particular circumstance where it feels very dangerous. And I don't know that is consistent with my own understanding of the virus. I guess that's where I'll leave it. Of like, it's all culturally
contingent. Yeah.
Yep. What about yourself? How did it begin?
So I had a trip scheduled in March of 2020 to the famously boot-shaped country of Italy. And then there was one of the first sort of documented outbreaks was in northern Italy, not in a part. I was going to go to like Rome,
Yeah.
And I wasn't going anywhere near any of that. And I remember there being like 700 cases and thinking like a year later, if you told me there were only 700 cases somewhere, I would go there right now. Right. But we were like, oh, fuck. And we lost a bunch of money by trying to pivot and go to like a different part of Europe that we basically like tried to cancel the second leg. We were flying through Heathrow or whatever. And like, what if we just went from Heathrow to Amsterdam or something? I think it was Amsterdam.
Are you very sweetly omitting the fact that you texted me to say like, hey, do you think this is a bad idea to go here? And I believe in February 2020, I was like, I think it'll probably be fine. You should just go.
Yes, that's what happened. And I remember getting a message from this is one of the biggest things I've ever done. One of the highest roads I've ever taken. I got a long, shitty message from an Airbnb host in Rome or Florence or something who was like, I will abide by the refund policy that I stated on my listing, but so many people are canceling their trips and they're really overreacting. It's just the flu. It's not any worse. And I like really long. And I remember thinking for years after that, maybe on the anniversary, just messaging back like, hey, do you still feel like this? Do you still feel this way?
Well, the danger with that though is how many people continued to feel that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was unemployed. My girlfriend was working. She went to remote work and she was working with kids, doing sort of one-on-one in-school health-related stuff with kids. Think like a speech therapist, but not that exactly, which had to go over Zoom, which was a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of losing my mind, going completely paranoid, insane, wiping down everything, wearing a mask when we went on walks. I bought an exercise ball because all I was doing was sitting all day. And so I bought the exercise ball so that I could sit more actively and bounce around, also bounce out all of the fear that I had. And I was a pretty rigorous masker. We ended up canceling the trip to the other Europe trip, obviously.
Yeah.
And then COVID was popping, the famous pop off and the sort of the turn happened while previous guest of the show, Bob Martin, was visiting me in Los Angeles. The last film I saw in a theater before COVID was Bacurau with Bob, although it was during COVID, but pre-lockdown. And then he was literally like actively trying to sightsee while places were slowly ad hoc shutting down.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I went nuts, and I was like kind of Howard Hughesing a little bit for like a few years there until I basically had to kind of make a personal calculation about just like the risk involved with like being alive and doing anything, interacting with anyone, going outside, staying inside. I had to sort of just acknowledge the inherent mild unsafety of all things, and that was probably like 2023 when that happened.
Yeah. Not this. I think this is specifically used as a way to derail people worried about COVID, but I think it did force us all to confront our inability to do risk assessment, and just like all the time, trying to reckon with the limited information we have, the decisions we make about things that we do because they're socially acceptable or because they're actually important to us.
But also I did have a lot of thoughts that I'm not at all proud of about like, well, I'll probably be okay. And it will really only affect like older people, already sick people. Yeah. People with compromised health situations, and feeling relief at that, which is now something I it's not a type of feeling I would like to have, because that is a selfish and ultimately eugenic worldview. And I guess if I need that to like keep me from having a panic attack about like my own imminent danger, I guess that's something. But reading, we've gotten this far in the episode without mentioning Stephen Thrasher's The Viral Underclass, which I've been reading until I sort of turned bright red with fury at what man hath wrought, and then I take a break. But thinking about the way that COVID disproportionately affected people along exactly the same lines that all like problems of the modern world affect people.
Racial disparity, sexual marginalization,
gender
it sort
marginalization. Of opens with Thrasher looking at like a map of COVID hotspots in New York City and realizing, oh, this is where the black and brown people live. This is a map of where the black and brown people live. Fascinating book. Definitely recommend people check it out. It's infuriating. The real facts described therein are infuriating. But yeah, these are thoughts I had, and even when both my grandfathers died in 2020, not of COVID, and one of them had the good fortune to have a heart attack at home, like basically in his wife's arms, and got to sort of die suddenly, immediately, without thinking about it. The other one died slowly of a lifetime of poor health decisions in like the non-COVID part of the hospital, and I think FaceTimed with some family members toward the end of his life. And then I did a Zoom Shiva with some people I'd never seen before.
Adapting culture to new moments.
It's the only type of Shiva I've ever sat, in fact, was the Zoom Shiva. And it also, it felt exactly like the thing I was doing on either side of the Zoom Shiva, because I was in the same chair in front of a computer.
Right. Yep.
And I think I put like a nice shirt on over my sweatpants, because nobody could see me below that. So yeah, that was kind of my quar. And then I was also guilty of like not thinking enough, although thinking some, I will give myself credit for thinking some about the many, many, many people who did not stay home because they had no choice but to go to work to maintain the functioning of capital, like the people who had to work at the grocery store that I was terrified to go to, and the people who had to work in the meat packing factories, for example, where there were like the hotspots during, as Stephen Thrasher points out in the viral underclass, the big U.S. hotspots for COVID for much of 2020 were jails and meat processing plants.
Right. Yep.
And so I was conscious of that. And also that was the summer of the George Floyd murder and subsequent protests, which is something that I think the film doesn't get at. And I do want to talk about sort of the differences between MEV1 and COVID-19 and also the ways that those played out. Is it time to do that? Would you?
Yeah, no, I think just to wrap, I mean, you're mentioning, I think appropriately, like witnessing some of the inequities, and it's sort of like drawing those things out, which I think the film does try to do. I will just say that living in Mexico, I do think my experience was slightly different than people in the US because there's an enormous, for starters, a lot of the people seem to be speaking a different language. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a weird combination of, I would say that on the one hand, from my understanding of what it was like in the US, it seemed like people were in part taking some of the things more seriously here, whether you can call that like greater community social cohesion and like less of an interest in individual rights, although I think ultimately it did kind of swing more US style. But at the same time, a huge number of people where I live depend on like weekly cash jobs. So like you're saying, it wasn't even just that they were doing essential work in the grocery store, although I think that was also often the case. Just people in the US had things like savings that they could live off of for a short time, or they were getting unemployment, or they were getting COVID relief checks, or they were getting.
But we're talking about white people with money specifically.
Right. We are. But even look, I will say not to say that it's a misery Olympics to compare the poor in the United States. There are absolutely people who are as poor in the United States as anywhere else. That's part of what makes it so insane, is that the wealthiest country in the world has also people who are experiencing some of the worst factors of poverty. But I do want to be clear that, like, on average, the average person in the city where I was worse off and in a more precarious position than a working person in the United States.
Oh yeah, no, I just didn't want to people to think we were saying that everyone in the US
having
got
it easy.
to,
No, not at all. But I think it's also because people had it hard. I mean, this is speaking of the difficulties of moral calculus. When people have a difficult time, I think it's also hard to imagine that, like, on average, other people were having a worse time than you were having. And I think it's just important to, the film, in its recognition of a place like a Chinese village that will be at the end of the line for vaccines and would not be a concern for people. Although I think we must talk about China's zero COVID policy and, what they tried to do for people there. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just weird to be in a place because even amongst other COVID conscious people that I was talking to, there was a sense of like, well, if you see somebody outside, that person is being selfish. And I couldn't quite go there for Mexico because that just doesn't really reflect like the possibilities people had. I mean, there were people who their children would have been starving to death because that there wasn't an option of saying like, well, pick up unemployment and try to survive another month or something. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I remember getting mad at people who were going for a run without a mask on.
Because I had recall running with a mask on. Yeah,
there had been some guidance that was actually you were just spewing behind you. You just had a plume of poisonous breath behind you. Like, I'm imagining like one of those smells in a cartoon that just hangs in the air.
Cartoon smell. Yeah,
and having to get over that, I guess. And also just getting mad, like looking out the window and being mad at a person running by themselves outside.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect anybody.
But also I think this was displaced frustration at people who we did see acting like very clearly selfishly. So
here's the things that stuck out to me watching this movie now. I did watch it in 2020. I found a very spooky article that I shared with Ian about how Contagion was already back on the iTunes charts in January 2020 when people were just like reading scary stories about
people were already talking about the Wuhan epidemic
Chinese
or something.
Outbreak. Yeah.
And also it had been a decade and sometimes people just like kind of get excited about a movie again. I think that happens too.
Sure. It's the disease is kind of like a zombie outbreak in that it seems to discriminate against it's completely indiscriminate. It does not seem to be affected by like existing health concerns. it kills very quickly. Not quick enough that it sort of snuffs itself out like these other would-be pandemics we talked about, but it's like enough to be terrifying.
Very visible, yes. And also it's not something like a quietly disabling virus.
Right. So that's the main difference, is that COVID is like arguably, ostensibly, visibly milder for many of the people who get it, although certainly many people died from it and continue to die from it.
Especially pre-vaccine. Yeah, although, they absolutely continue to die from it. But I also think there was like a amnesiac shift as soon as we all had the vaccine, and the death rates dropped from whatever 1.5% to 0.3% or whatever it is. And people just said like, oh yeah, it was never really killing people, and it was very obviously killing people like more than almost any other thing that was killing people, like single cause. I mean, you talk about
the statistics problems. Even just hearing that, I'm thinking 1.5. Well, that's not like, I thought it was worse than that. But you think about whatever, you fill a fucking football stadium with 100,000 people.
Somebody comes in and kills 1,500 of them.
1,500 people are dead. It would be
the worst thing that you ever saw in your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Almost as bad as fucking football.
Okay, there it is.
Hey, come on. I'm Bane now.
Yeah, he hated football.
He did that because he hated football.
Yeah.
It sucks. Okay. That was Bjork again. The thing about MEV1 that's notably different from COVID is the absence of long COVID, and the absence of the sort of ongoing mass disabling event that COVID-19 became. And also, the film is covering a lot. It does not get into the vectors of class and racialized class.
Yep.
And gendered.
I mean, the Chinese village thing is a hint at that without really recognizing how, like you're saying, a virus that was that was spreading to mostly killing, I should say, immunocompromised people would be just like roundly dismissed, because that basically means people feel it's irrelevant to them.
But I think also, the film's two most privileged characters in terms of like access to health defenses are the two black characters in the film, which is a very Obama.
It's true.
An Obama media thing to do.
Yeah.
And the Lawrence Fishburne and Sanaa Lathan characters.
Although, but Cheever, the Fishburne character, I mean, again, I don't think it's like, I think it is still accidentally dismissing the actual way that a pandemic, I almost said a pandemic played out in real life.
Dude, it's so hard to not accidentally say pandemic.
I was trying to say play. I
do.
The John Hawkes character and his son, I think, are the other, like, in America too, there are people who would maybe feel like they're last in line, right? I think that's
I got like people too, as he puts
exactly it. a vague gesture to this without it being really centralized.
Right. Man, I just remember the first person that I let into the apartment, like after, like once we started really locking down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think our garbage disposal fucked up, and like I couldn't fix it. I tried really hard, so we had to get a plumber in there, and I was like scared, and I had my mask on, and I was like 25 feet away from him at all times. And he, I think, had a mask on, but like not over his nose. That was another thing that I was like just a fucking nightmare about.
Yeah.
And he's working on the thing, as happy as a clam, and he goes, the first person I've like let into the house who's not me or my girlfriend. You see this pandemic thing? Yeah, like Bill Gates planned the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he like owns the patent on the vaccine, and they're just like waiting. They already have it. They're just waiting to put it.
Which is almost, to be clear, almost identical to what the Jude Law character says in the film.
Yeah, yeah. So that was fucking terrifying. Like,
yeah,
I was like, because I really had to psych myself up to like let this guy into the house, and like, I need this. I need to use the sink, like, and he's not going to be in here for very long, and we'll open all the windows, and I'll stay far away, and we'll wipe everything down, you know.
But even that, look, I think one of the complicated questions was, what do we do if some of the same populations of people who have been intentionally or otherwise marginalized in United States society? I think that includes things like science education sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember I was just thinking about Kyrie Irving, the
Mhm.
NBA player who's a flat earther, and just thinking. I remember when I heard that. I don't know, man. If you were from the sort of group of people who were experimented on at Tuskegee or something, I don't know if I can tell you that you have to believe some science and not other science. You know.
Yeah.
And that's watching the movie again. I was just so angry at anyone who's ever done corruption, because like the sort
Right.
of the Pandora's box of corruption on the corruption opens in terms of like the health of a society in terms of its like healthy interrelation between people. It's just like it's unfixable, because you're absolutely right that there are people have like sold snake oil. People have suppressed research.
Or, I mean, look, I don't say this to scaremonger, but like the CIA used fake vaccines as a cover to try to find Bin Laden.
To find
in
Osama
Pakistan.
bin Laden, and didn't fucking work.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't even know. Like I'll twist myself in knots trying to figure out like, wait, why am I believing this thing when I know about this other thing? Why am I believing, Fauci lied, people died? Why am I believing this guy who did like work for George W. Bush when there's other people who worked for George W. Bush where I'm like, well, that's the main reason I'm not going to believe that guy.
Mm-hmm. It was disqualifying for you. Yeah, I mean, we're not a podcast that goes around saying.
We've just been flagged on Spotify, but
Okay.
Big time.
Yeah, we don't go around saying believe the government narrative that they are pushing in this moment necessarily. But
then there are certain like public health officials where you're like, well, this is the best course of action to believe this. And I often don't really know why I've arrived at this is the rational thing to believe and this is the thing to question. Maybe just vibes based, maybe I'm looking to people I already trust who I assume have done better research than I have, and I guess that's what everybody's doing. But some of the people who are doing that, the person they trust the most is Theo Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean that is the do your research thing is both like, well, yes, actually do your research in the sense of like figure out who knows about virology and who seems to not just be interested in like getting people back to work because the US economy is shrinking, versus do your research can also lead to ivermectin or whatever else may be, right?
And then now we have Kurt Crumweedy. What is his name?
Alan. Yeah.
Alan Crumweedy is the like leading health expert in the United States.
Yeah, that is
and
correct.
Literally saying, what was the fucking thing he said recently? He literally said like, you shouldn't trust experts.
Yeah.
Like as a defined
You're talking
class.
about RFK Jr. to be clear.
RFK Jr. Yeah. Like the only thing that defines an expert is that they know a lot about the thing. And he's somehow saying that this is a group that categorically cannot be trusted.
I mean, this does bring us to one of the big questions I think the film is bringing up, and I want to talk about with you, which is what do we want from government or like collective decision making? If we're first of all, I mean, I guess premise number one, assuming we are buying into a social contract where we're saying I am ceding some of the rights I have as like a natural man in nature or something to say, okay, I'm going to participate in a society and I will hopefully reap the benefits of this. All right. So we're assuming society is like
sharing
a good,
resources
good
with other people, splitting splitting the tasks of building our little village or whatever.
And in doing so, agreeing not to whatever, like run naked into your home whenever
or just like kill a guy when I feel like it, or take shit from somebody else. Yeah.
So assuming we're on board with that,
I am at this time. I'm on board with that as of this record.
What do we want and what do we consider acceptable? Because, I mentioned already China's zero COVID policy in passing. It is now held up. I spend time, unfortunately, around Chinese American expats, and they definitely insist on calling themselves expats who spend time in China and now spend time on r/China, which is, I believe I mentioned on the Patreon, just a cesspool of very frustrated white men, I will say, who just go around saying it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And while I was in China, I was locked in my room and I didn't know if I was going to ever see my family again. And look,
sounds great.
I mean, I'm being a little bit glib because I think there's a real question in saying, okay, the government of China was held up as an example of a country that acted swiftly in the face of a virus that we didn't know that much about. They basically, their calculation was inaction in the face of something that could be 28 days later, or could be, even if it's not 28 days later, something more like what we see on screen where like social institutions just totally break down, right? The part of the film we haven't really talked about is like Matt Damon seeing looters, like it appears they kill his neighbor and the rest of his neighbors are just gone. And there's no police, there's no firemen, as his daughter points out. The unions are on strike. But China said, okay, we're going to do something, massive administrative movements where we force people to stay home in like a more intense lockdown. We do a ton of contact tracing. We restrict travel. And look, to be a mouthpiece for the other side, they restricted people's rights in the sense of like, you couldn't leave. You couldn't go to other cities. You couldn't travel where you wanted to go. You couldn't go to the cafe or buy food at the grocery store, right? You had to like wait for deliveries. And to also be on their side, I guess, just to faithfully represent what they objected to, there were incidents like a fire in Xinjiang where a building may be of like Uyghur people who obviously we're talking about like concerns with existing oppression, right? We could say that things like that where certain people in China were maybe neglected more, certain poor people in villages that maybe had like genuine food shortages for a time. But in exchange, China had for about 2 years some of the lowest COVID rates of any large nation in the world.
Right.
And basically only gave it up when there was a combination of native protests and also they realized, well, the rest of the world just didn't commit to zero COVID. So like it almost, like we can't, I think this is something we've talked about with communism, right? It's like the difficulty of saying, how do we be the only guys? Because it doesn't quite work that way.
You kind of have to you have to flip all the switches at once.
Exactly. So I guess my question to you is like, I don't know, how do you decide what you want your government to do? Sometimes we talk about not wanting our government to intercede or something, but when do you want your administrative body that hopefully is representative of the collective will to say like, I'm going to stop you from doing harm to yourself or other people?
Yeah. I mean, and it's, I guess I'm lucky in that the enormous issue that the central government is looking to solve here is one that I agree exists. Yeah. Which is not a statement everyone would agree with. Yeah.
I think you're right to say that.
And there's plenty of times, like, I think for example, the government of, you ever heard of the United States of America? Small country.
Yeah.
I believe they are, the government is hallucinating about a number of different threats from within and outside.
Things that we think they're spending money on that are ridiculous. Yeah.
Mobilizing. Yeah. I mean, I guess I frankly am lucky I'm not President Xi Jinping of China because I don't have to make these decisions. But like, it's one of the things that you have a centralized authority for, right? Is to like take these sweeping actions, the kinds of things that. You ever seen the Wandering Earth movies? Have I made you watch those?
I've watched them independently. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it again.
I'm a free man. Okay.
3, 2, 1. Put on the Wandering Earth. Folks should check those out. These are films, the Chinese films adapted from some science fiction novels about just an enormous worldwide effort to basically turn the whole Earth into a big spaceship to get it out of the way of the dying sun, to go to a new sun. And the parallels with zero COVID are pretty obvious. Although,
and with climate change. Yeah.
It's the kind of like, oh shit, we need everybody to work on this together sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, if there was a grand plan to fix the environment that required me to do some things I didn't want to do, I guess it would depend on the things, but that's why I live in the village and not alone in the woods. And I guess I was one of the people, is another thing I'm not terribly proud of, and one of the people who would say that I would joke I've been training my whole life for lockdown, or like it hasn't really changed how I behave, because I have anxiety about going outside and I don't like bars and stuff. It did obviously have a negative impact on me, but at the time I thought it was not that bad sometimes. And I like watched a lot of movies, for example. So, I mean, I guess that's what government is for, ultimately. I don't know. What do you think about it? You're the one who reads all the moral philosophy.
Well, I mean, look, it's a difficult question because obviously, of course, like we've already mentioned, we make these types of calculations when we say we're going to allow people to drive, even though driving is inherently dangerous, both for
that's one we should change very soon.
Right. Drivers and people on the street, and because it pollutes the atmosphere and is slowly killing us. But I mean, it's something we see all the time, right? To quote some moral philosophy, I have objections kind of like spiritually to leaning too much on utilitarianism, because utilitarianism, I think, often is like Obama style guys who believe they have enough information to feel very confident about their decision in saying, I'm going to support Israel, just as an example, when in reality they have a limited amount of information plus a bunch of unacknowledged biases and things that they're willing to accept, like Palestinian deaths, and say like, well, I'm going to pretend that's not part of why I think it's okay to let these people die, because I'm actually just being objective about
stability for the region, because we need to extract the oil from the region to power the world.
Exactly. Even if we're pretending it's not to personally enrich themselves, because they would say
it's like,
these deaths are worth like powering world agriculture or something.
We need the Suez Canal
fertilizers. Exactly. Yeah.
Open. Yeah. God, remember that fucking thing? Wasn't that a 2020 thing or 2021?
Evergreen, Everlast, whatever.
The Ever After.
Yeah.
When Drew Barrymore got stuck sideways in the Suez Canal.
She kept forgetting.
She's even taller than your prom date.
Right. But I don't know if you're familiar. This is like truly intro to philosophy stuff. But John Rawls's Veil of Ignorance. Are you familiar with this idea?
Probably. We took that philosophy of mind class together. I think I was like asleep most of the time.
Okay. Yeah. So this is like the idea that if you were designing society and you didn't know where you were going to be in society, you would probably design a society that had robust social safety nets, right? Because like if there was a possibility that you were going to be born in one of these categories that somebody like Thrasher talks about, right? Like, black, poor, gay, whatever, in a country where you're oppressed actively, then you would probably say, hey, I think it's good to have free housing and I think it's good to do this stuff. But in the United States, despite people being in very precarious positions, they actively, I mean, they're not even, what's shocking is that like we lifted the veil of ignorance, people are in some of the bad positions and they still say, I'd rather not be taxed in my imaginary situation where I become a millionaire. In exchange, I'm not going to have like welfare available to me.
I remember I was temping. It was just a temp job where I was doing data entry or something. It was me and this other guy. And he was like, let's say he was like a 20-year-old Latino guy who was, doing, I would say, trying to present himself as worker, as office worker. I'm here to do the job. I'm ready to have my career. And he was just like chatting. We were chatting, at lunch or whatever, because everyone else in the office knew each other. And he was talking, just sort of repeating some absorbed talking points about how, it's actually like, it's much harder to be a business owner because they're the ones who like taking all the risk.
Right.
Motherfucker, you are temporarily employed.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? We had to fight to get them to pay for our parking in this office building that would have cost more than we're getting paid for today.
Right. You're as close to the race to the bottom as like America allows, basically, in this job.
Yeah, you just happen to be doing the demeaning work that you have to wear a tie for here. But that doesn't make you a career man. Like, and if this guy is saying this, like, do you have any idea what the owner of this real estate concern would say or do to you?
Right.
For no reason, just for fun, without thinking about it. Yeah, and this is the temporarily embarrassed capitalist thing.
I mean, it's also to return to this question of like China trying to do zero COVID almost by itself. One of the difficult questions that I don't have a resolution for is, well, how do we fight for a better world as long as there are people who are going to think this way, right? Because assuming that we're going to allow for free speech, and obviously China sometimes makes a decision to say like, well, this is me being optimistic, but they would just tell the Jude Law character that he can't have access to the internet anymore or something, right? If they decided that was administratively expedient. But obviously there are dangers to that, I should point out. But I think the question is, well, what do you do? How do you live in a society where you want it to be a certain way and you know that there's going to be other actors who are doing labor to make it more difficult for some people to live, like going out of their way to make it difficult for people, because then you can't just build the institution that helps people. You have to figure out, well, how do I either educate them or communicate the necessity of this or do something, or some people would say deprive them of their rights to undermine this institution, right? I don't know what to do.
And I have trouble thinking about this without starting to dehumanize
that's a danger.
Some of these people in my head about like their level of whatever critical thinking.
I mean, you end up at like does everybody have the right to vote sort of behavior.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like, then how do we ensure that people are going to the polling place with adequate critical thinking and forethought about the election in hand, and like then you have to start at the education level, that sort of stuff. I was thinking about, because you do have to allow people to be stupid in order to be like. This is one of the struggles
core
that I face
tenets of the podcast.
Exactly. One of the struggles I face as like a leftist type of guy is like believing in the inherent like worth of every person to like the
their voice,
entitlement of every person to dignity.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though so many of them do things that drive me fucking insane, and like the guy who wears the mask over his mouth but not his nose. It is my brother, and I must stand alongside him,
Right.
And I was thinking about this the other day. There's a documentary, Kanesatake, 270 Years of Resistance, the 1993 Alanis Abomsawin documentary we've talked about on the show before.
Yep.
About the Oka crisis, this conflict between Mohawk First Nations people in Canada over a decision by the government to expand a golf course onto sacred burial ground. And there's like a siege, basically a standoff between Native activists and the Quebec Mounted Police. And there's a scene in there that I think about a lot, where there were some older men among the Mohawk people sort of encamped on this land, whose job it was, like whose task in this small pocket society that's there, to cool the heads of the younger men. Their job is to part of the, I mean, not all the time, obviously they're doing other stuff.
Sure.
But like when, like a young hothead, when a 19-year-old is like, you know what, fuck the fucking Mounties, I'm going to shoot one in the head. It's the job of this older man to say like, and there before, I know how you're feeling. You're right to be angry.
Yeah.
This is not going to result in the outcome that you want. Here are the reasons why we can't do this right now. Let's talk about it. Let's go chop some firewood to get the aggression out, whatever. A fascinating and inspiring way to sort of look at some of the stuff we talk about when we talk about abolition, when we talk about other approaches to like preventing violence that aren't policing, right? And just thinking about, well, hey, how can we scale that? Can you scale that sort of trusted elder helping to talk people out of antisocial thoughts or behaviors? How could you possibly put that at scale? Because it definitely seems like having a fucking guy on TV talking down to you is not going to help.
Well, sometimes it helps some people, and that's can't be enough.
Yeah. And obviously, when you want to get into like anarcho-syndicalism or whatever, it does seem like it's maybe easier to organize 300 people than 300 million.
Huh?
But like when we're talking about things like the distribution of the production distribution of vaccines for everyone on the planet, it gets tougher when you're a bunch of groups of 300 guys.
Or transition to clean energy, right? It's something that simply can't be done on the village level. And you brought up globalization earlier. One of the weird things is if you try to opt out, you can't. I mean, the libertarian dream, we've tried to spoil it so many times, and we'll continue to do that on this show, because you can't opt out of a world that is already globalized unless you were like convincing everybody else to also opt out, because things like climate change and things like, education, COVID for other people, right? Those things will inevitably affect you unless I guess you're like truly homesteading in the woods or something. But even then,
Sentinel
climate change
Island. But even the guys on Sentinel Island probably have microplastics in their balls.
They do, yeah,
because of the fish.
And they have forest fires, and they have all the things that we're all collectively facing. So I think if you're asking
they're
this
all
question
jacking off constantly. They're gooning on Sentinel Island.
That's
if
right.
we were one of those podcasts that just names the episode after like an interesting phrase that came
they're
up.
Gooning on Sentinel Island.
They're gooning on Sentinel Island.
Yeah, that's
I feel like, not to toot my own horn.
No, it's all.
A lot of those guys are tooting their own horns on Sentinel.
That's one of the big problems up there. Yeah. So look, to bring it back to the film a little bit, I think this movie and films in general, whether this is a liberal tendency on the part of the directors or this is a inherent draw that you have to resist in making a movie, they return to questions of like, well, what about individual brave action, right? I think this film is very far from OUTBREAK. I mean, OUTBREAK is fun in its own way, but everything in OUTBREAK has to be
a fantasy film about Rene Russo wanting anything to do with Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, well, he does have these two beautiful dogs in the film. That part I think was convincing. But yeah, I mean, it's Dustin Hoffman and occasionally Rene Russo making these like noble against the military decisions, right? I mean, they literally have to involve a bomb that, sorry to spoil OUTBREAK, but like a bomb that Dustin Hoffman personally gets in the way of, because that is how crises are averted, is like through individual heroism.
Right.
And the weird thing, we've talked about this with climate change, is, I mean, you are an individual. You are making only individual decisions. And we can't totally just pass the buck. This is something I've previously described as being frustrated to me and saying like, well, individual action is never going to affect climate change. Only government action will do that, or action on the part of the major corporations of the world. I mean, that is true, but also, who is going to be the one to decide that if you aren't going to start to contribute to that change somehow, right?
Right. Every single person will have to shift their behavior.
Yeah.
And you could do it in a sort of as a sort of murmuration, like a sparrow.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to put it. I genuinely mean this. I think that's really nice.
Thank you. I saw one of those today. It was crazy.
That could be why.
It was sparrows. It was something
imprinted on you. You tried to join them. I think. Yeah, I mean, the film is saying, it has Elliot Gould deciding not to cede to the CDC are largely the good guys in this movie, but Fishburne says like, let's restrict it to BSL-4 facilities to investigate, and he's BSL-3.
That is a responsible decision that he's making.
But in some ways, on the one hand, the movie is valorizing individual action. I also think it is speaking to the difficulty of administrative decision making, right? Like he's trying to stop himself from becoming a vector of the disease, or the government from being a vector for the disease, but also he only has access to limited information, and like it turns out that the guy who can discover it is working in a semi-secure lab in San Francisco. Right. So I don't know. I think it is maybe, I don't know that Soderbergh even completely understands what he is saying, because I agree with you. I think neither of those people are wrong, and maybe that's the difficulty of this as like a moral fork in the road, right? Is to say, well, sometimes it is right to try to make the utilitarian calculus, and sometimes it's right to say, I'm going to do the thing that I think is, in line with the categorical imperative or whatever, the thing that I think is like matching my idea of rightness or something.
The thing that I think if there is the thematic through line of the film is that it is just and brave and human and correct to be selfless.
Uh-huh.
And we see little, I think, beautifully articulated moments of this when Kate Winslet realizes she's infected and she's like, her first thought is she calls and gets a list of everybody who serviced her room to figure out where it came from. Yep. And also says, like, I've definitely infected people. She calls Lawrence Fishburne to figure out what to do. And then she's dying in the infirmary. And the last thing we see her do is the guy next to her is begging for a blanket. They've run out of blankets. And she, like, with all her strength, tries to sort of, like, shove her coat toward him. Same with the Marion Cotillard character. She's been kidnapped and she's educating children. And then when she finds out she's been exchanged for, that her kidnappers have been duped, her immediate decision is to go let them know so that they don't get sick.
Right.
The Lawrence Fishburne decision to, he makes good, he fucks up and acts in self-interest, but also, as he puts it, you know, when he goes in front of a Senate investigation or whatever, he'll tell them that he acted out of care for a loved one, which is what he did. He was like worried about his girlfriend and wanted her to not to get trapped in Chicago. And then to make good for this, he gives his vaccine dose to this child.
Yep.
And I think that is what Soderbergh is valuing in this film, is valorizing which I agree with. But then you think about, like, Jude Law in part thinks he's doing that too. He thinks, right, at least partially, he thinks he's
that's the
alerting people to this grand conspiracy to hurt them. Same with people who are like, I hate to tell you about something from the computer. I know how much you hate that. Yeah. But this is similar to things that have happened before. I don't know if it's Luke Bryan or Zach Bryan or Zach Brown, some country guy. He's at the Sphere right now. Okay. He's at Sphere in Vegas. And some of the imagery playing on the big screen behind him is like a big scary monster.
Okay. All right.
And people, there is at least enough people that it became a trending topic on the Horrible website that people are saying he is cursing the crowd with satanic energy for showing them a big scary monster from a computer.
Yep.
And like the people who are saying that genuinely, at least some of them, think that they are acting selflessly.
Absolutely.
That I'm losing my job because I'm speaking the truth about how there is a demon in the Sphere in Las Vegas, and I can't go to work today because I have to make sure everybody knows.
I mentioned Begonia. That's why I think the film is good, is because the Jesse Plemons character is articulate and he has done like some real research. Like he really talks about colony collapse disorder, and he's talking about the things that this like corporation that Emma Stone's character works for has done. Like this is not. We can't even write these people off as like just absolutely freestyling this stuff out of, the desire to be the center of attention or something. Right. Like you're saying, some of these people have done something that even resembles kind of the research that we do, I would argue. And it's maybe even from the same place of, I want to even sacrifice myself for the sake of a better world. And they are doing damage to the world potentially.
Right. And if we're being fully responsible as researchers, we do need to question, like, let's not take for granted the peer review system. Like that is let's not take for granted that the scientific method is without flaw or
what they call, I mean, this is like the same mode of thinking that produced phrenology, but also I'm certainly not suggesting let's abandon the peer review system, because it is close to something that protects us and allows people to be able to confirm knowledge. I mean, I agree with you. We can't be unskeptical, but I'm also absolutely not arguing for we gotta just like we gotta anarchize science, basically, just to like let everybody do their own thing.
So wait, I don't have permission to release now?
You don't.
All of a sudden I don't have permission.
All of a sudden, yeah.
Oh, I have that other clip that you wanted, by the way.
Oh yeah, thanks so much. I thought you'd forgotten.
I'm sorry I couldn't finish.
You want to be
that's more like it. Now that's prom night.
That's Kate Winslet is Ian Ryan in the Ian Ryan story.
Yeah. I think there is a cognitive dissonance in the movie, and I think it is not Soderbergh's fault, because it is a dissonance that exists in society, which is he is trying to not make Outbreak, and he is trying to say, like, we shouldn't just care about this because Rene Russo got the virus, right? He is trying to say like, we should care about this stuff because of like what we understand, what we can intellectualize about what it means to be in community, and like the amounts that, even if it's limited, the amount that a bunch of apes have managed to kind of understand things like the spread of diseases that we can't even physically see. But also, I mean, we can't make sense of this without returning to human interest things, right? I think the film is constantly like trying to resist being a human interest movie. And it's saying like, don't only care about this because Matt Damon's wife died. That's why I think that's part of why I think it's bold that he kills her right away, right? It's saying like, this isn't about Matt Damon fighting to save the woman he loves. This is about the spread of something that kills, what is it in the movie, like 26 million people or something? I don't remember the final number, but
yeah, I mean, some enormous amount. But I mean, I wonder, have you seen there was some interview where Craig Mazin, the sort of doofus,
the Chernobyl dude, yep,
but also the Last of Us dude, where he has been like, we need to be fucking scared of the cordyceps fungus from the Israeli video game The Last of Us.
Yeah,
and it's like, you sound like a fucking crazy person, but I don't know, maybe I would have said that in 2011 if I saw this movie. I don't know.
I mean, that's the weird and you know, if we're trying to step outside ourselves, that is how we sound to people who, oh, look at that. Wow. He's like
I'm Doctor Strange.
Man. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. He did the astral plane thing. Sorry. I got confused.
Well, but then there's a muscle meat man left behind me.
That's true. You mean just a human body?
What if Doctor Strange did like ghost sounds while he was like that? Just for fun.
That's extremely Marvel type of a joke to make. So,
fuck off.
Sorry. Look, I just mean that. Yeah, that's how we sound to people who think that this is an overestimation or that climate change is being, this is like scaremongering about something.
The Airbnb host thinks that I sound like Craig Mazin.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, I think in conclusion, society was a mistake, like anime. And I think maybe we should supervillain style, we should engineer a virus that kills the whole world painlessly, instantaneously. So
Rainbow
that no
Six
one experiences.
Style. I see. Yeah. It's true democracy because it doesn't pick based on things like race. I mean, we've just already proven that not to be the case, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I guess I just, I don't want anyone to feel sad that their friend died before them. I just want.
But look, this is, I mean, you say this, but this is also, I think, an accusation that was leveled at the time of there is like a documented psychological desire when people are grappling with their own mortality. So, I mean, this is something people associate with zombie fiction, right? The attraction is not just you dying; it's the world dying. So don't worry. It's
sure.
It makes your death into something significant, and it also means that you're not missing out.
I believe this is Kenneth Branagh's logic in the film Tenet.
Okay,
which was the remaining Christopher Nolan film we hadn't mentioned on the episode.
That's true. We finally checked that box. Yeah.
Following
Insomnia.
Never saw it.
Oh, it's pretty good. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Did we say Sammy Jankis yet?
Not on this episode, but in the podcast, absolutely.
Do we have any final thoughts on Contagion? Soderbergh says he's got an idea for a spiritual sequel, and he might have an idea for an actual sequel, but he and Scott Z, I think they have like a microplastics movie that they're working on, which I don't know if it's going to top Crimes of the Future. That's kind of the the microplastics movie to me.
Microplastics, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. The microplastics movie is if they ever get that friggin' micro machines thing off the ground. It's ultimate microplastics.
I guess you're right about that when you say that. Yeah.
What if they made it like rice?
The plastic?
What if we just ate microplastics like rice, and you could put furikake on there?
Ooh, now you're selling me on this. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Microplastics musubi. Yeah, I mean, I think this is as pretty close to as good as you're gonna get in terms of a match of Soderbergh's form to content. So far, I'm very impressed by this movie. It's obvious shortcomings notwithstanding. I mean, it is it's like an hour and 40 minutes or something. It's not gonna. It's not gonna be.
I feel the same way. The things that I wish were in there. It's more just a question of like, well, art can't talk about everything.
Yeah, but I mean, there could have been nudity, including some of the things you wish were in there.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
At least naked dead bodies.
Uh-huh.
You were telling me you love
28
that.
years later, yeah. They're not really dead, I
well,
guess.
but are they?
Yes,
they're definitely naked.
Yeah,
and
aren't they legend?
Exactly. And brother, I'll see you in the Bone Temple. Paul Newman had one of those in his yard.
Yeah.
Okay. We got one last thing to do before we close things up. Kimmy, will you remind us?
This is Popcornopolis, the segment where we ask our guest, do you like popcorn?
Now, we don't have a guest, but we should talk about popcorn. And I was thinking about this in the context of Corona.
Okay.
The coronavirus.
Sounds like pop Corona. Is that what you mean?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's a really good point, though.
Okay.
Did you have a time when you stopped letting people touch your food? Like, were you back in public, but not sharing finger food like a popcorn?
I don't think that would have ever been like an overlap that was a concern for me, because I think, there was this sort of transition to like outdoor dining that was socially distanced only. But
LA
I think
al fresco, as
exactly
the brilliant man Spaghetti Garcetti called it.
That's right. I basically waited to dine out until I was already starting to accept some risk. So I don't think I was being obsessive about other people.
What was your first movie back? Do you remember? First theater back?
I don't remember, actually.
I do.
What was
I
your
opened
movie
up
back?
that damn book, the Book of Saw, Spiral.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I think I probably, if I checked Letterboxd, I probably gave it it probably got an extra 3 stars out of just, I'm back at the movie theater. The movie is so big.
Yeah.
A couple of book plugs, because it's just us here, just two lovable lads from Liverpool talking about some books I would recommend people check out. Obviously, The Viral Underclass by Stephen Thrasher, the ever important, the ever relevant Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, as well as what's the Naomi Wolf book, the one about the one she wrote, the one Klein wrote about, that's like based on her and Naomi Wolf, Doppelganger, also Doppelganger, the Naomi Klein book, which is more on the sort of crumb-weedy end of things, but an important document. There's a lot of really good podcasts about health stuff from a left perspective. Red Medicine is one I like a lot. Obviously, Death Panel and the accompanying book Health Communism that they wrote is a really, really great text. Anything you'd like to plug in terms of further research stuff?
Yeah, you mentioned the word spillover, which is the concept of like when zoonotic viruses jump to humans or pathogens jump to humans. There's a book called Spillover. It's a little bit in the pop science vein, which I got to be honest, a lot of these books, these COVID books, I'm a little bit boringly rigorous in my desire to want to like read a more in-depth history or scientific study of some of these things, and I think this subject does
we get it. You have normal length bowel movements.
Okay,
you're in there for a normal amount of time.
Yeah, I think some of this stuff tends to a kind of like free-flowing connection of ideas to me that I think it's a topic that is worth examining closely, and even if emotions are understandably running high, I think it's still worth like trying to achieve some amount of objectivity about. But Spillover, kind of a normie discussion of these things that also is effective as like a thriller, basically about what a threat this poses to us. Also, I mentioned Laurie Garrett, this person that was an advisor on the film, and her book, The Coming Plague, was like an early discussion of like how much of a threat this is to us and how much we're
written
underestimating.
In the 90s, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. Oh, also the Ebola scene in Joe Dirt. Check that out.
That's a good one to think about. Yeah,
that's where I learned about Ebola.
That's really weird, man.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't come up that much. And that movie came out when I was like 9.
Okay, then you're right. It's not that weird.
Thank you. Well, I think we did pretty good. Lots more to talk about, but that's why we're coming back in 2 weeks with another episode on some other shit. Thanks everybody for listening to the show. We love you so much. Remember to subscribe, rate us, write a review. It helps us on the algorithm. If you like the show, tell a friend, tell your dad. Do a post on truthserumnow.org. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcastiforme. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you're interested in co-hosting a two-person Steven Soderbergh podcast, you can email us at podcastiforme@gmail.com. All of this is at podcastiforme.com and shootingyourselfinthehead.com. I never remember to say this. We're also on Blue Sky, and I would say I remember to post the episode there 85% of the time. And
great, man.
I've posted like some of my better Twitter jokes or the ones that I didn't think got enough play over on Blue Sky to see what happened.
Normal behavior.
Thanks as always to Jeremy Allison for our artwork. He's at Disney World as we speak.
Wow. Wonderful. I hope he has a great time.
Probably at a hotel sleeping.
I think you're probably
as
right.
We record this.
Yeah.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks. If you can't wait that long, sign up for the Patreon. Oh, one thing I did forget. We didn't have a guest on this episode, but there is somebody who did want to pop in.
Oh, who's that?
He's a big fan of the film. This the classic Adam Sandler SNL character Cajun Man is here.
Oh, great.
Why do you like the film? Contagion. World Health Organization.
This is the best part of the episode so far.
Dissemination.
Oh, okay.
Misinformation.
That's good to be aware of. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Image Nation.
Who was the guy who played Cheever again?
Lawrence What do you mean? You trying to trip him up?
I thought it was close enough.
Are you trying to get him to say Lawrence or something? You know what caused the whole thing?
What was that?
Deforestation.
Oh, okay. That's a really good point. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, sign up for our Patreon. And by the way, I Googled is Cajun man racist? And Google thought I was trying to look up, are Cajun men circumcised?
Whoa, okay.
Bye.
Bye.